Hey guys, it's Kaylor. Welcome to the YouTube channel. This is part 4 of our design to code that we've been working on. In today's video, we're going to finish our design to code by coding the actual website. So the first thing we need to do is head into Adobe XD and start to export our assets, and then we'll begin to code. So I have my Finder window open here, and then in the background I have Adobe XD. So inside of here, I'm first going to create an images folder. And I'll just drag that over here. And then I'm going to create a JavaScript folder because we are going to use that for the mobile navigation. So I'll just create a JS folder, and then let's clean that up. And let's move that back over and then re-clean that up. Okay, so let's start to export our assets. So the first thing we need is our logo. We can select our images folder, and I'm just going to name this logo_white. And then one thing I did notice is here I wanted to add a little bit more detail, so I'm just going to quickly grab this shape here in the background, hit Command C, Command V to make a copy, and then I'm gonna hit Shift and Alt and drag up until it's a bit larger. Command Shift left square bracket key will send it all the way to the back, and then I'm gonna turn the opacity down to around 10%, and then we're left with that. So to export the background image, I'm going to group all of the illustration. So I'm going to select all of that and hit Command G. Next, I'm going to grab a rectangle and drag that out the full size of the artboard. And then remove the border. And then I'm going to drag until I have the illustration and that's selected, hit Command Shift M. That will mask this. Then we can just select it and hit Command E. Save it as background_image. So once we're done with that, we can save this and close it. So here in my code folder, I can click on images and I have my background image, which is in this layout. So this is going to go in the corner of our web page. And then we have our logo right here. So now let's head over to brackets. So here in brackets, I've opened up our code folder. You can see that over here. We have our images, and then we have nothing in the JavaScript folder. So first let's create our index. So Command N and then Command S, and then we can say index.html, and then we'll do the same thing for our CSS. Command N, save that as main.css. So first we're going to work in the index, and then we're going to switch over to the CSS to style the website. So in the index, I'm going to start by opening our doc type, HTML, and then open and close the HTML tag. Then first we need our head tag. We're going to give the page a title, and I'm just going to say HSME, which is the logo that we created. That's the abbreviation for the company name, so we'll just go with that. And then first we need to set the character set, so meta character set UTF-8. Then we can also do our viewport, so meta name viewport, and then we need to do content, and this is going to be width equals device dash width, comma initial dash scale equals 1.0, and then we can close that. Then we're going to link to our style sheet, so link rel style sheet, and then href main.css. The next thing I'm going to do is copy and paste in Google's CDN for jQuery. All you have to do is Google jQuery CDN Google, and it will pop up. This is the script tag for that. And then we're going to link to our JavaScript file, so script type text/JavaScript, and then the source, and I'm going to put this in the JavaScript folder, and I'm going to call this nav.js. This file doesn't exist, so let's go ahead and create that. So Command N will make a new file, and the Command S, I'm going to select my JavaScript folder, and then we'll name it nav.js, and now you'll see that inside that folder. And just to double check, nav.js, perfect. So that's all we're going to need for the head tag. So we can go ahead and open up the body tag. So the first thing we're going to add inside of the body tag is a wrapper class, and that's going to allow us to store all of our content inside of it, and then we can add the spacing on each side with that. So if I head back to brackets, we're going to create that. So we're going to say div class, and this is going to be wrapper. So first we're going to start with our nav, so I'm just going to do a nav tag. And the first thing inside of there is our logo, so we're going to have an href. I'm going to pound symbol that out. And then inside of there, we're going to have an image class, and this is going to be source of images, and then logo underscore white. We can give that an alt of HSME white logo. Then I also want to apply a class to this, so I'm going to go into my A, and then say class, and then we're going to call this logo. Under that, we're going to need our links, so I'm just going to create an A tag, and href, and then pound symbol it out. And then I'm going to duplicate that a few times. The first one we had was platform. And then for the next one, this is going to be a button. So we have our A tag, and then I'm going to give it a class of button, and it's going to be a small button. So btn small. And inside of there we have an image, and that's going to be our icon. I'm going to have to link that up and then go images, and I'm just going to leave that blank because we didn't actually export that now that I think of it. And we need an alt tag on this as well. So alt, and this is going to say user icon. And then we need a p tag so we can target the text. And I'm going to write register inside of that. So now we need to go back to XD and we need to export this icon. So I'm just going to select it, Command E, select my images folder, and then user plus solid will work. So we'll export that. Back in brackets, we just need to add that to our source. So we'll say slash user plus solid.png. So now that is linked. That is it for our navigation. And then the only thing we need after that is a div. And I'm going to give this a class of landing. And this is where the rest of our website is going to be housed. First thing is we have an h1 tag that goes in here. And so I'm going to go to XD and I'm just going to copy that. And just paste that in. Then after that we have a button. So we'll just do an A tag, href, and then pound symbol that out. And I'm going to give this one a class of btn large, since it's at the larger button. And then in this one, we just need a p tag and then say get started. The p's aren't necessary. You can style the a tags, but just so it's a little bit quicker, I'm putting the p tags in there. That works with HTML5. Underneath that, I'm going to create a p, and this is for our review. So I'm going to give this a class of review. So I'm just going to grab that from XD. So we'll just paste that in. So then at the end of that, we have that name. So first I'm going to put that on a line below it. So I'm going to do BR for a break. Then I'm also going to do another one, which is going to add some space that we don't have to code just to make things a little bit easier. Then I'm going to type out in a B tag for bold dash Mike J. And once we have that, that's pretty much everything we need to get going. So I'll save that and then I'll just click this to preview. So here's what we have so far. It's actually not a lot of content. We just have a logo, some links, the register button, the H1, another button, and then our reviews. So now we're going to start style of this. So I'm just going to drag this over to the side like this, and then we can adjust brackets to go next to that, just like that. So then I'm going to split my screen vertically in brackets. And I'm going to drag the main.css over here. I'm also going to close the menu here on the side so we have more room. So in the CSS, I'm just going to start a comment. And then inside of this, I'm going to say global. And then I'm going to do a bunch of dashes. So our global styling, we need to do an asterisk. We need to open that up. Inside of here, I'm going to say margin of 0, border of 0, padding of 0, font size is going to be 100%, Then we also need to do the outline to 0, and then vertically align to baseline. Then we can set up our colors. We're going to do this in the root. And we need to do dash dash main dash perp for our main purple. And then I'm going to do another one, dash dash main dash perp dash light. That's all we need for the root. Now we need to target the HTML. And we're going to set up the font family. Again, this is going to work since I'm on localhost, but you're going to need to either embed this or use something like Typekit to get this to work on a server. So I'm just going to put in Nimbus Sans. And then if that's not available, we'll alt to a sans serif. Now onto the body. The first thing I'm going to do is set the background. So background dash image, URL, images, and then we can set that to our background image. Then I'm going to take off the repeat, so background dash repeat, no repeat. Background size is going to be 100%. Background position is going to be bottom and right. Then I'm going to set a background color. And I'm going to set that to our variable that we created. It's going to be dash dash main dash perp dash light. Then I'm going to set this to the entire browser height. So height is 100 VH, which means viewport height. And then the width is going to be 100%. Next, we're going to move on to our fonts. First, we're using an H1 tag. So inside of this, I'm going to set the font size to 50 pixels and then the color to white. Then we're using A tags, and I want all the text decorations to be set to none. Also, the font size is going to be 20 pixels. Color of white. And also want to set the font weight to 300. Then we're on to the P's. So all of our P tags, font size is going to match the A tags of 20 pixels. The color is going to be set to white, and then the font weight is again going to be 300. Now we have all of our text looking good. We need to move on to our buttons. So I'm just going to add a bit of room here in the CSS so you guys don't have to look at the bottom of the screen. I'll remove that later after the video is completed. So I'm going to say button small, which is our register button and side of our navigation. First thing I want to do is set the background color. And I'm going to set that to our variable of dash dash main dash perp. Then a border radius of 5 pixels. I'm going to display it as an inline block. I'm going to give it a width of 150 pixels. Padding of 0.8 em. I'm going to text align it to the center. And then I'm going to create a box shadow on this. For now, we're going to leave that blank. We're going to insert that in just a second. First, I want to get these on the same line. So we're going to do that by targeting the .btn small. And we're going to target the P. And then we're going to say .btn small. And we're going to grab the image. I'm going to display these as inline block. And then I'm going to add some padding onto them. So padding to the right is going to be set to, let's do 10 pixels. Let's continue on to the next button, which is the button large. So we'll just target .btn large. And I'm just going to copy everything from button small. Command C, Command V. And I'm going to adjust this from 0.8 em to 0.8 em and 1.75 em. Just to make it a little bit wider. So there's our two buttons. Now we need to add our box shadow to them. So I'm going to go to the internet. I'm just going to type in CSS box shadow generator. We'll just go with this one. And I'll just adjust the values. And so that generates all that for us. So I'll just copy that. And we can close out of this. And then we'll paste that into the button small and the button large. That just saves us the time of typing all of that out by hand. And then that's it. The last thing we need in our global is our wrapper. So I'm just gonna say dot wrapper. And we'll go with a width. And this is gonna add the spacing on the side. So we'll go width 90%. And then we set the margin to 0 on the top and bottom and auto on the left and the right. And that'll make sure it's centered. And then for larger views like TV, I'm gonna set the max width to 2000 pixels. So that's just gonna make sure our content's not stretched out across the entire screen. So that is it for our global styling. So I'm gonna go up here and grab this comment. And then I'll just go down below the wrapper and paste this in. Next, we're going to work on our navigation. So I'm just gonna put in nav. So now that we're gonna work on the nav styling, I want to go ahead and add in the mobile navigation. So we're gonna go back into our HTML. Then above our wrapper, so outside of it, I'm going to add a new div. I'm gonna give this an ID of overlay. Then I'm also going to give it a class of close. All right, so since this is gonna be an overlay on the screen, we're gonna need a close icon. Since we didn't design one, we're just gonna use a Unicode. So the first thing I'm gonna have in here is an A tag. And on the href, I'm just gonna pound symbol that out. And then I'm gonna give this an ID and not a class. So we've already used the class of close. This time we're gonna use the ID of close. And inside of this A tag, we're gonna have a Unicode. So I'm gonna paste that in. And that is just a close icon. It is and hashtag 215 semicolon. Then below that, we need our normal menu. So I'm just going to copy those over. And then I'll just make sure these look aligned. Notice how I didn't grab the register button. That's because we're just going to add it into the menu as a normal link. So we'll just type out register. So now if you look over here, we have the close icon and then the rest of those. That's looking fine. So now we're going to need a way to close and hide these in the responsive code. So I'm gonna go into the nav itself, and then underneath the logo, I'm going to create a new div. I'm gonna give this a class of desktop. And this is going to be so we can hide all of these in the responsive code later on. So I'm just gonna grab the end tag of that. I'm gonna go down below our register button, and I'm gonna paste in that closing tag. So now we have our logo, then we have a desktop class with all of our navigation links inside of it. Now we need one for mobile. So I'm just gonna create another div inside of the nav now. I'm gonna give this one a class of mobile. And then for this, all we need is one link. So A, and then I'll do the href and then pound symbol that out. And I'm gonna give this one an ID of open. So this is gonna be our open button that's going to make this appear. So we're gonna give this one a Unicode of and hashtag 9776 semicolon. That is our hamburger menu icon. You can now see that over here. So this all looks like a jumbled mess now, don't worry. We're now going to style it. So back over to our navigation in our CSS. First thing I'm gonna do in here is say .mobile, and I'm gonna say display of none. So that's hidden. Then I'm also gonna say .close, display of none. So now all we can see is the desktop version, and we can start to style that. So nav, and here we need to text align everything to the right. And we also need to add some padding to the top. So padding dash top, and we'll do 40 pixels. That's all we need for that. So now we need to move our logo to the left. So we'll say .logo. That's the class we added to our logo link. And we can just float that to the left. Next up, we need to adjust some of the overlay stuff. So I'm going to do hashtag overlay. That's going to target the ID. And we're going to set the height on that to 100 VH. So it's going to cover the entire screen. And then we're going to say width of 100%. Text align, I'm going to align it to the center. I'm going to add a z-index of 2. So this is on top of everything on the browser. Position it absolute. And then we'll add a background color to this. And I'll do our variable --main -perp. So now when we open this up, it's going to cover the entire screen in this darker purple color. Next thing we need to do is say hashtag overlay and then A, and then we need to use the not selector. And inside of that, we're going to target the first child. So we can open that up. So the first thing I want is the width to be 100%. So basically what we're doing is styling all of the links and not the close button over here. So we're styling all of the rest of them inside of here. That's what the not first child is for. So we have width 100%. I'm going to display them as block. And then we can say margin. Now let's do 150 pixels on the top only. So I'll just zero out the rest of the values. One final thing we need to do is the overlay A, and then we need to target the first child itself. So now we're only targeting the first child. We need to float this to the right. And then I'm going to add some margin so that when we click the hamburger menu icon, that'll be up here in the corner. The X will be over top of it. So I've already done this ahead of time. So I know I need a 65 pixel on the top and then a 5% on the right side and then 0, 0 for the rest of the values. Now that all that's done, we can just do a hover effect on the links. So we'll say overlay A hover. So when all the links are hovered over, we're going to drop the opacity on them to 0.5, which will make them just appear a little bit darker. So that's it for the navigation. So I'm just going to grab our comment, Command C, and then Command V. We're going to change this to landing. Believe it or not, we only need to target 2 things here. So we'll say .landing. And then we're going to set that to a margin. And we're going to adjust this only on the top. And I'm going to set this to 15 EM. It's going to apply some spacing. And then I also want to set a width of this to 550 pixels. That's going to match our design. So we have both of our breakpoints in both of these in the same spot. Later on, when we get to the mobile view, we will switch this to 100% to fill up the entire view. For now, that will work. Last thing we need to target is the review. All we have to do in the review is drop it down and lower the opacity. So we'll say .review. We'll say opacity, and we'll put this to 0.7 or 70%. And then we'll set the margin on the top again to 8 EM. All right, so let's double check everything over here. So we'll just refresh to make sure. One thing we need to do is add some spacing here. So I'm going to say nav A, and then I don't want to target the first A tag because that is our logo. So we'll do a not selector, and then we'll say first child since it's the first in the nav, and then we'll open that up. And we're going to say, let's do a margin on the left of 50 pixels. So there we go. So that is everything we need. Now we need to make this responsive. As you'll see, we need to make some adjustments to the background. And then we're also going to need to make our navigation desktop disappear and the mobile appear. And then we need to fix the width on these. So I'm going to grab this landing tag and just paste it down here. And then change that to responsive. So we're going to do this with one breakpoint just to make things nice and simple. We'll just say at media, and then I'm going to set this to max dash width, and then we're going to put in 900 pixels, and then we'll open that up. So everything in here, when this max width of 900 is met, will be adjusted. To see that visually, we can always set the body and then set the background color on that to something like red is what I like to do. So when we get there, it will turn to red like it is now. So we'll actually just make it go red so we know that all of our adjustments are now going to be visible over here. So I'm just going to take this out. I'm going to target the .desktop and then say display of none to hide that. Then obviously we need to show the mobile, so .mobile. I'm going to set this to a display of block, and then a margin on the top to push it down just a little bit of 23 pixels. Next thing I'm going to do is adjust the .landing class. We're going to set the width on this to 100%. And then I want to adjust the margin on the top. We're going to lower that down from 15 to 70 em. And then on the body, we need to adjust our image and put background size at 200% to make that just a little bit bigger. So now here's what we have. We have our logo, and we have our navigation. When we click this, it doesn't currently do anything. That's what we're going to be coding next. We have this set to 100%, so as this gets smaller, it'll just adjust, and everything else adjusts accordingly. You'll see it snaps between the desktop, tablet, and mobile view, just like that. So now what we need to do is code the functionality of this. So we are done with the CSS and the HTML. Now we need to go into the nav.js. I'm just going to drag this over to the right side. What we're going to be doing is just when we select this, it's going to unhide the overlay, and then when we click the close icon, it's going to hide the overlay. Really simple stuff. We're going to first start off with a cache symbol, and in parentheses, I'm going to say document. Then we're going to say .ready. And then we're going to, in parentheses, say function. Then you have to do the open and close parentheses for a function. And then we'll open our curly braces. So inside of here, I'm then going to do another cache symbol. And this time we're going to target our ID. So we're going to have to do single quotes. And we're going to do hashtag for the ID and then say open. And this is going to be on click, so .on. And then in parentheses, we'll say in single quotes, click. Then we need to run a function. So we'll do our parentheses again, and then we'll open up those brackets. So inside of here, we're going to target our overlay now. Same process in our single quotes. We're going to say hashtag overlay to target our ID. And then we're going to say .remove, and we're going to grab the remove class function. And then we're going to target that by in parentheses saying close. So we're looking for the close tag, and we're going to remove it. And then we'll add a semicolon there and a semicolon there. And then we also need a semicolon on the bottom. So now what will happen is when the document is ready, which means when everything's good, when we're here on the page, we're going to select the open tag, which is going to be this. On that click, we're going to run the function, which is going to remove the close class from overlay, therefore showing it to us. So now inside of here, we also need to have a way to close this. So I'm going to do that by targeting the close, which is our close button. That is our X button inside of the overlay right here. So that ID of close. And we're going to do the same thing, so .on. And then we're going to target the click. Then we want to run a function, so function. And then we'll open that up. So inside of here, we're basically going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to copy this line. And instead of remove class, we want to target the add class. And that's going to add the class of clothes, which is going to hide it. And we need a semicolon here. And then we can save this. So now that we've done that, I like to unlaunch and relaunch every time I mess with JavaScript or jQuery. And now when we select this, our overlay is visible. When we select the close icon, it hides itself. We do have a problem with our CSS. This should be over here. So let's go back to that. So I just had a typo right here. I have overlay, so we'll remove that Y. And then our X goes into the correct position. So with that, all of our code is done for our website. So I'll show you what we have now. So when we scale this up to full size view, we have what we originally created in Adobe XD. And then when we scale this down, it switches over to the mobile/tablet view. And we can click on this and we coded in all the functionality for these. And then we can hit the close button. Pretty cool. So with that, our project has come to an end. I think I've mentioned this a few times in the comments, but I want to mention it here in the video. The goal of the series is to start you guys off with the basics and then just add in a little bit of more advanced stuff here and there, so that when we get to the end of this design to code journey, you guys are really solid in designing and coding websites for the web. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more UI-related content. Make sure you have that notification bell on so you don't miss a video. As always, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.